assumption that if you win 8 or 9 a year and now you get this hotshot coach that you're going to take off from there. But obviously there's a lot of things in play from year to year progress that PJ Fleck had to address, and he can still be building a program. The results are the results, but there are some other positive signs in regards to recruiting and otherwise.
There are. And again, I even think that the 2018 record for Minnesota may be worse than the 2017 record, because you're looking at significant losses along their defensive line. You're looking at some guys transitioning back to linebacker. You're looking at a secondary that's going to be even younger, especially after they get some redshirt, a true freshman class they have in the secondary. You get a redshirt year under them. They're probably going to have to play some of the 2018 signees that they're going to have coming in for the 2018 season in the secondary. We are probably looking at a new quarterback as well. Just so many different things in flux for Minnesota going forward. Now, where PJ, you mentioned, is the recruiting rankings. It's no surprise that PJ has the top-rated recruiting class for 4 years at Western Michigan, and then he goes 13-0 and gives a good challenge to a Badger team in the Cotton Bowl. It's no coincidence that you have the top-rated recruiting class for 4 years. Once you get that team to being a redshirt junior, a senior, again, you're starting to see the dividends of that team pay off. You go 13-0, lose to the Badgers in the Cotton Bowl. So where does that put Minnesota? Minnesota's got their top-rated recruiting class that they've had this decade under PJ Fleck, and that's with a only potentially 6-win season, maybe even worse. Now, I don't think that's going to affect Minnesota's bottom line, as you can push to these kids while you have the opportunity to come in and play right away, because they actually do, because they have no depth at so many different positions. So that's always a benefit in the recruiting trail, and just how dynamic PJ is as an individual. And the nice thing about PJ Fleck recruiting is his personality instantly either connects with a kid or it doesn't. So you don't have to waste your time with 15-minute conversation with PJ Fleck. You know whether you're going to like him or if you are going to be skeptical. If you're going to like him, you're going to love him. If you're skeptical, you're not going to like him. And so, the two can go their separate ways. But PJ has this team as high as they've been in this decade with recruiting rankings at scout.com and 24/7 Sports. That's a big deal, because it's not like you see Alabama and Ohio State in the 50s in terms of recruiting ranking every year and then asking, how are they playing for the national championship? Folks, it's no surprise that all these 4- and 5-star kids, they go to these schools, and it turns out, hey, the 4- and 5-star guys are pretty good, and these are the teams playing for national championships every year. So if PJ can continue an upward trajectory in Minnesota recruiting in 2019 and 2020, I still think there is a very good opportunity for Minnesota to take that next step, but it's going to take a couple of years.
Talking Minnesota football with Ryan Burns from Gopher Illustrated. You can catch the long-form audio conversation on Stitcher, Podbean, and iTunes. Check out the topical segments on Mark Rogers TV. Subscribe to my YouTube channel for the best in college football coverage. And, of course, Ryan covering Minnesota for Gopher Illustrated for the best in Minnesota football coverage. So, Ryan, before I let you go, related to PJ Fleck's demeanor, do you see anything different in the course of these 3 particular difficult weeks or since the season started? I haven't heard from him since preseason, so I haven't checked out the news conferences. Is he being pretty transparent about his disappointment, or does he consider this kind of the course that he has to ride through?
I think it's more the course he has to ride through. If you go back today and watch any PJ Fleck press conference after any one of these losses, specifically last week, I mean, he's self-admitted he's going to focus on the positives. He's a positive guy. He doesn't like to focus on the negatives, but he's realistic all about it all. I mean, he talks about Minnesota's run struggles. He knows that they didn't do well against the top sweep. They didn't do well for this, and this, and they have to get better at that. And in the words of PJ Fleck, they have an opportunity to change their best next week against Illinois in that regard. But again, it's always been positive with PJ Fleck. He's just not a very negative person. And again, that bugs some people. I think he's too overly positive. I think he's a used car salesman. And the one thing I'll continue to stress to people is I've had 30, 40 plus interactions with this man since January. And from interaction 1 to interaction 40, he's the same person. He's just a unique individual that you don't come across every day. Again, in my 25 years, I've only been here that long on this earth. I've never met another person like PJ Fleck, and that's, it's not good, it's not bad. It's just PJ Fleck is PJ Fleck, and he doesn't care what you think about him. Now, I think he's genuine. I think he is what he is, and I think he's just a unique individual, and I think that's a good thing for Minnesota. Don't ask him to be something that you're not. Ask him to embrace that World of Old culture. I think fans have done that. But PJ Fleck is who he is on and off the field, win or loss. And again, that either clicks with some people or it doesn't, but I hope folks are at least willing to give him a chance, give him at least 4 years to see what he can do with these recruits that by that time are redshirt sophomores, redshirt juniors, because it is going to be a process for Minnesota.
Well, whether Minnesota football is relevant depends on the perspective. Some people think you have to compete for college football playoff appearances to be relevant nationally. Obviously, this program has been very steady in finishing fringe top 25 and going to mid-tier bowl games for quite some time. But PJ Fleck is going to be somebody that, in the eyes of a lot of people, is going to keep this program relevant regardless of the record because of his personality and because of the attention that he draws. All right, Ryan Burns from Gopher Illustrated joining us to break down Minnesota football. Ryan, I can't tell you enough how much this helps us in regards to understanding the program, the personnel, and the outlook now.
Well, I appreciate the time, Mark. I'm sure I'll talk to you here soon.